hotel stood tall in the center of the city, shining with glass walls and gold lights. People called it a place where only powerful lives passed through. On this morning, expensive cars lined the entrance, and guards stood straight with hands folded. Inside, a private floor was reserved for a meeting that could change many business futures. The man at the center of it all sat calmly in a quiet lounge, reviewing papers on his tablet. He was known across the country for building an empire from nothing. Many admired him, many feared him, and some secretly wanted him gone. He did not notice the silent tension around him. To him, it was just another meeting, another deal, another step forward. His mind was focused on numbers and timelines. The security team nearby looked alert, but even they felt relaxed. The hotel had been checked twice. Everything seemed clean and safe. A few floors below, a woman in a plain uniform pushed a cleaning cart down a long hallway. Her back was slightly bent from years of hard work. Beside her walked her daughter, a quiet girl with sharp eyes and careful steps. School was on break, and the girl sometimes helped her mother with small tasks. She did not complain. She knew every extra hour worked meant food on the table. The girl noticed things most people ignored. She noticed how voices changed when certain people passed by. She noticed when smiles looked fake. As they reached the private floor, the air felt different. Quieter. Heavier. The guards at the entrance looked official, but something felt off. Their shoes were not the same. Their radios were old models. Small things, but the girl's stomach tightened. Her mother was told to clean the meeting room before the guests arrived. The girl followed silently, holding a cloth. Inside, the room looked perfect. A long table, leather chairs, water bottles placed evenly. But the girl's eyes moved to the corners. She saw a small black device taped under the table. She had seen something similar in movies, not in real life. Her heart started beating fast. She whispered to her mother, but her mother gently shook her head. "Do your work," she murmured. "Don't look around too much." The mother had learned one rule in life. Stay invisible. Ask nothing. Say nothing. The girl tried to listen instead. While wiping a shelf, she heard two men talking near the door. Their voices were low, but the words were sharp. "It will look like an accident," one said. "Make sure he's inside before it starts," the other replied. The girl froze. Her hands felt cold. She did not fully understand what they planned, but she understood enough. Someone was going to get hurt, maybe killed, and the man everyone was waiting for was the target. She looked at the door. Guards stood outside. Real guards? Fake guards? She could not tell anymore. Her mother finished quickly and nodded for her to follow. As they left, the girl looked back one last time. The black device was still there. In the hallway, more important guests arrived. Men in suits. Women with serious faces. Phones buzzing. Everything moved fast now. The girl's thoughts raced even faster. Should she speak? To whom? If she was wrong, her mother could lose her job. If she was right and stayed silent, someone might die. They reached a service area where staff waited quietly. The girl's hands were shaking. She tried to slow her breathing. Then she saw him. He stepped out of the elevator, surrounded by people. He did not look arrogant, just focused, calm, like someone used to danger but not expecting it today. For a moment, his eyes passed over the crowd. They did not stop on her. Why would they? The girl felt time slow down. This might be her only chance. She had no phone, no badge, no proof, just a terrible feeling and a few overheard words. Her mother noticed her still standing. "Come," she whispered, pulling her sleeve, but the girl gently pulled away. She grabbed a small piece of paper from a trash bin, clean on one side. Her hand shook as she borrowed a pen from a nearby desk. She did not think much. She just wrote what felt right. "Don't panic. It's a trap. Trust no one here." Her heart felt like it might break her chest. She folded the paper tightly. As the group passed by, she took a step forward. Her foot caught the edge of a mat. She fell slightly, just enough to look clumsy. Papers dropped. Someone sighed in annoyance. "I'm sorry," she said softly. In that second, She slipped the folded note into the man's hand. Their eyes met. Just for a moment, he felt something touch his palm. He looked down without changing his face. Training from years of survival kicked in. He closed his hand around the note calmly. The girl quickly stood up, lowered her head, and rushed back to her mother. Her legs felt weak. She did not know if it worked. She did not know if she had just ruined everything. The man continued walking. No one noticed anything unusual. Inside the meeting room, people took their seats. Doors closed. Silence fell. He sat down and slowly unfolded the paper under the table. He read the message once, then again. His face did not change, but something in his eyes did. At first, he thought it might be a prank, or a warning from a rival trying to scare him. But something about the words felt real. Simple. Urgent. No demand. No name. He looked around the room without moving his head. The guards. The cameras. The table. Then he noticed it. A small device taped underneath. His heart skipped a beat. He did not panic. He remembered the note. And for the first time that day, he realized that someone he did not even know might have just saved his life. Outside the room, the girl sat quietly beside her mother, staring at the floor. She felt sick with fear. She did not know what would happen next. All she knew was that she had done something she could never take back. And somewhere above her, the trap was about to be tested. The room stayed quiet after everyone took their seats. Papers were arranged neatly, glasses filled with water, and the city skyline stood still behind the glass walls. On the surface, it looked like a normal business meeting. Inside the man's chest, however, his heartbeat had changed. Not fast, not slow, careful. He kept his face calm, just as he had learned long ago. He placed the folded note back into his pocket without anyone noticing. His eyes moved slowly, taking in details he had ignored before. The guards near the door stood too stiff. One of them avoided eye contact. Another kept touching his earpiece even though no message came through. The man leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms, pretending to listen as one of the speakers began talking about investments. The voice sounded distant. His focus was elsewhere. He slightly shifted his leg and let his hand slide under the table again. The small device was still there. Real. Cold. He did not react. Instead, he reached for his phone and placed it face down on the table. To anyone watching, it looked normal. To him, it was a signal. A silent alert was sent through a secure channel only a few people in the world knew about. No sound. No vibration. Just a quiet call for help. Minutes passed. The speaker continued. Charts appeared on the screen. Some people nodded. Others pretended to care. The man nodded too. Inside, he counted seconds. Outside the room, the girl sat on a small chair near the service wall. Her mother cleaned nearby, unaware of what her daughter had done. The girl's hands were folded tightly in her lap. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. The fall. The note. His eyes. What if he ignored it? What if she was wrong? A bead of sweat rolled down her back. She felt dizzy. She tried to focus on the sound of the cleaning cartwheels instead of her thoughts. Down the hall, one of the guards spoke quietly into his radio. The girl noticed. Her stomach dropped. She looked around. No one else seemed to notice. Or maybe they pretended not to. Inside the meeting room, the man felt a small vibration against his palm. Not his phone. Something else. A signal that his message had been received. He cleared his throat gently. Before we continue, he said calmly, I need a short break. 5 minutes. Some people looked surprised. One man frowned. We're on a tight schedule, he said. I know, the man replied evenly. 5 minutes. His tone left no room for argument. He stood up. The guards moved instantly, but he raised his hand. Stay. That single word made two of them hesitate. He noticed. He walked toward the window as if answering a call. His back was to the room now. One of the fake guards took a step forward, then stopped. The moment stretched. Then it happened. A quiet click came from under the table. Not loud, not dramatic, but the man heard it. He moved. He pushed the heavy table forward with all his strength, sending it crashing into the chairs. The sound exploded through the room. People shouted. Someone screamed. The device dropped to the floor and began to spark. Real guards rushed in from the hallway, drawn by the noise. The fake guards tried to run, but they were blocked within seconds. One was tackled to the ground. Another froze, hands in the air. The room filled with confusion. Papers flew. Glass shattered. But the worst never happened. The man stood against the wall, breathing hard but alive. Minutes later, the room was sealed. Everyone was escorted out one by one. Phones were taken. Statements were recorded. The mood had shifted from shock to fear. In the service area, the girl felt the building shake slightly from the noise above. She jumped. Her mother turned toward her. "What was that?" she asked. "I don't know," the girl whispered. Soon, security officers appeared in the hallway. Not the same ones from before. These moved with confidence. Real ones. Everyone was told to stay where they were. The girl's heart pounded. Had they found the note? Would they think she was involved? She looked at her mother, whose face was pale with worry. After some time, a man in a dark suit approached them. He spoke quietly to the mother first, asking routine questions. Then his eyes turned to the girl. "Did you write a note today?" he asked gently. The girl swallowed. Her throat felt dry. She nodded. The mother turned sharply. "What note?" she asked, panic rising in her voice. The girl looked down. "I was scared," she said softly. "I thought something bad was going to happen." The man studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You did the right thing." Those words felt unreal. They were escorted to a quiet room. Not harsh, not cold, just quiet. The girl sat beside her mother, hands shaking. No one raised their voice. No one accused them. Then the door opened. The man from the meeting stepped inside. He looked different now. Less distant. More human. He walked slowly toward them and stopped in front of the girl. "That note," he said softly. "Where did you get the idea?" The girl hesitated, then told him everything. The device. The voices. The fear. Her words came out in a rush, like she had been holding them back for too long. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, the room stayed silent. Finally, he nodded. "You were brave," he said. "Braver than many adults." The mother's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "If she caused trouble." "No," he said firmly. "She saved lives." The girl looked up, surprised. Saved lives. She had only wanted to stop something bad. Outside, the building slowly returned to calm. News had not spread yet. The city kept moving, unaware of how close it had come to tragedy. The man stood up and turned toward the door. "This isn't over," he said. "But because of you, there is a future." As he left, the girl felt something new settle inside her. Not fear, hope. And she did not yet know how much her life was about to change. After the chaos of the meeting, the man returned to his office on a higher floor, a quiet place where he could think without interruption. The city looked calm from up there, the morning sun reflecting off tall buildings, unaware of the danger that had been so close. He sat down slowly, letting the moment sink in. Each second passed like a small victory, but also a reminder that he had been vulnerable. Someone had wanted to harm him, and the realization was sobering. He opened the note again, reading it carefully. Simple words, yet the weight they carried was enormous. He traced the paper with his fingers, thinking about the girl who had risked so much. She had no way of knowing if she would be noticed, caught, or even blamed. And yet, she acted anyway. Her courage had saved him. Not a security team, not his wealth, just one small, quiet act of bravery. Meanwhile, the girl sat in a small room with her mother. It had been quiet for a while. They could hear faint noises of doors opening and closing in the corridor. The girl stared at her hands, her mind spinning. She did not expect anyone to thank her. She did not expect anything at all. She had only done what she thought was right. Yet now, somehow, everything had changed. A door opened quietly, and a man entered. Not the same man who had led the security earlier, but someone different. He was calm, authoritative, with a tone that demanded attention without fear or threat. "You did something very important today," he said, kneeling slightly so he was closer to the girl's eye level. "Do you understand what could have happened if you had stayed silent?" The girl shook her head slowly. She was too scared to speak. He smiled gently. "You might have saved not just one life, but many. You are very brave." The mother's eyes filled with tears again. "I should have never let her come near that floor," she said, voice trembling. "I am so sorry. If anyone says, 'Your daughter made the right choice,'" the man interrupted firmly, "no one will blame her. You should be proud." The girl's heart skipped a beat. Proud? People never said that to her. She had been quiet most of her life, trying not to be noticed, doing what was asked, never asking for praise. But now her courage had been recognized. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. After a while, the girl and her mother were escorted back to their room, told to stay put until it was safe. The man returned to his office, but he could not stop thinking about the girl. Someone with no power or influence had shown more wisdom and bravery than many of his trusted advisors. It made him reflect on his own life. He had spent years surrounded by people who flattered him, people who only cared about what he could give them. And yet, this girl, who had nothing in the world, had risked everything for a stranger. He called a trusted aide, giving instructions to check every device in the hotel and secure the building quietly. No alarms, no unnecessary panic. He wanted the truth, and he wanted it fast. He also wanted to find the girl again. She had to be safe, and he had to understand more about who she was. He had a feeling that her bravery was only the beginning of something remarkable. In the meantime, the girl could hear whispers in the hallway outside. Staff members were cautious, some peeking at them but quickly walking away. Her mother held her hand tightly. "You did the right thing," she said softly, almost like she needed to remind herself as much as her daughter. The girl nodded, but her mind was still racing. What would happen now? Would anyone ever know what she had done? Would she face consequences? Hours passed slowly. The city outside continued to move as if nothing had happened. And yet, inside the building, the aftermath of the day was settling quietly. The man reviewed security footage, not just from the meeting room but from the hallways and service areas. He saw the girl's quick movements, the folded note, the careful way she had slipped it into his hand. Every small action mattered. Every detail had saved a life. The girl, still sitting in the room, tried to calm herself. She thought about how strange life could be. One moment she was helping her mother clean. The next, she had changed the course of events for someone she barely knew. Her thoughts returned to the note, to the words she had written in a rush. "Don't panic. It's a trap. Trust no one here." Those words had carried so much weight. She never imagined that such simple words could mean the difference between life and death. Later, the man decided to visit them quietly, without causing any fear. He wanted to see the girl, to speak to her in person, to thank her in a way that words on a note could not. When he arrived, the girl's mother looked at him nervously, but he reassured her with a calm nod. He sat down across from the girl. "You have a rare courage," he said, voice soft but firm. Not many people would act when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose. The girl looked at him, trying to process what he was saying. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt," she whispered. He smiled slightly. "That's exactly why you are brave. Because your choices were about others, not yourself." The mother's eyes glistened. "I never imagined that something so small could be so important," she said. The man nodded. "Sometimes it is the smallest actions that carry the greatest weight. And today your daughter saved lives. I want to make sure she knows that." The girl's chest swelled with a strange feeling she had never experienced before. Pride mixed with disbelief. She had never been told she was important, that her choices mattered. And now, she understood that even someone like her could change the world in quiet, careful ways. The man left them shortly after, promising that everything would be safe. But he also promised himself that he would never forget the courage of the girl who had trusted her instincts, even when the world around her was confusing and frightening. As the day drew to a close, the girl sat by the window in her small room, watching the sun set over the city. Her mother cleaned nearby, quiet and thoughtful. They both knew that life would continue, but something had changed forever. The girl had learned that even small acts of courage could have a lasting impact. And the man, somewhere above in his office, knew that sometimes heroes came in the most unexpected forms, quiet and unnoticed, but powerful beyond measure. And in that silence, both the man and the girl understood something essential. Bravery is not measured by wealth, power, or fame. It is measured by the choices we make when no one is watching, when the stakes are high, and when fear is the only thing standing in the way of doing what is right. The next morning, the girl woke up earlier than usual. The sunlight filtered softly through the window, casting patterns on the floor. She stretched and glanced at her mother, who was already awake, quietly tidying up. The events from the previous day still felt unreal. It was like waking from a dream she could barely believe was real. She tried to remember every moment. Slipping the note, his calm eyes, the crash of the table, and the quiet way the world had shifted around them. And most of all, she remembered how he had called her brave. She had never been called that before, never even by teachers or friends. The word echoed in her mind, strange but comforting. Down in the hotel lobby, life seemed normal. Guests walked in and out, business people discussed deals, and staff moved efficiently from one task to another. No one could imagine that a single act of courage had changed the course of the day above. Yet for the girl and her mother, nothing would ever feel the same. Hours later, there was a quiet knock at their door. The girl's heart jumped. She looked at her mother, who gave a small nod for her to see who it was. When the door opened, there stood the man from the meeting, flanked by two of his trusted aides. He smiled warmly, not in the distant way of a powerful man, but like someone who had come to say thank you properly. "Good morning," he said. "I wanted to see you again." The mother stepped back, unsure of what to do. The man nodded gently toward her. "She is safe. I only wish to speak with her for a few minutes." The girl swallowed hard but stepped forward. He motioned for her to sit at the small table near the window. He took a seat opposite her, his gaze calm but focused. "I want you to understand something," he began. "What you did yesterday, it was extraordinary. Most people would have walked away, convinced it was none of their business. But you acted. You trusted your instincts, even though you had no proof. And because of that, many lives were saved." The girl blinked. I just wanted to help," she whispered. "And that is exactly why it mattered," he said gently. "Bravery is not about strength or power. It is about making the right choice when it is difficult, even when no one will notice. You have that bravery." Her cheeks warmed. She had never imagined anyone would speak to her this way. She had always stayed quiet, blending into the background, careful not to draw attention. And yet, here was someone important, telling her that she mattered. The man leaned back slightly. "I also want to make sure that you and your mother are safe. You were in the middle of something very dangerous, and I cannot risk you being hurt." The mother's eyes filled with tears. "We are grateful," she said softly. "I never imagined that that this could happen. She only acted because she felt something was wrong." The man nodded. "Exactly. And that is why I want to offer support. Not just for safety, but for your future. I see potential in your daughter. She is brave, smart, and perceptive. I would like to help her grow those qualities." The girl looked at him, unsure if she understood. "Grow qualities?" she asked quietly. "Yes," he replied. "I would like to help you with education, opportunities, and guidance. You have a gift that should not be hidden. I want to make sure it is nurtured." Tears filled the girl's eyes. No one had ever offered her such a thing. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. Over the next few hours, arrangements were quietly made. The hotel's security team had investigated thoroughly and ensured that all dangerous devices were removed. Authorities had quietly questioned and detained those responsible for the trap. No unnecessary attention was drawn. The girl and her mother were safe. The man returned briefly to speak with them, ensuring they understood the measures in place. He spoke not as a distant businessman but as someone who genuinely cared about their well-being. "I know this is overwhelming," he said, "but sometimes doing the right thing changes more than we expect. Your bravery did that." The girl tried to absorb everything. She thought about the life she had known. Quiet, careful, always staying in the background. And now she was being offered opportunities, guidance, and protection. It was more than she could have dreamed. As the days passed, the girl began to realize that the world could be different from what she had always believed. People could see you for who you are, not just for your circumstances. Courage could open doors that wealth, status, and privilege could not. And most importantly, one person's small action could ripple outward in ways unimaginable. The mother, too, began to relax. She saw the man not as someone to fear but as someone who recognized and valued integrity. She no longer felt the constant worry that had shadowed her life. For the first time, she felt that her daughter's future might be safe and full of possibilities. Even in the quiet moments, the girl reflected on what had happened. She had acted on instinct without thinking about reward or recognition. Yet the recognition had come anyway, not in the form of fame, but in the acknowledgement that her choices mattered. She realized that her actions had power because they came from a place of honesty and courage. The man continued to check in on them, always quietly, always respectfully. He ensured their safety, provided resources for education, and even helped her mother with opportunities to improve their lives. The hotel became a place not just of work, but of hope and possibility. One evening, the girl stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. She felt a sense of calm she had never known. She had faced fear, acted when it mattered most, and discovered strength within herself that she had never imagined. The world outside was vast and uncertain, but she now knew that courage, kindness, and careful thought could make a difference. The man's influence remained present, not as control, but as guidance. He had shown her that bravery could be noticed, that good deeds could ripple beyond immediate perception. And she understood that she had the power to shape her future, to act wisely, and to continue being brave. In the quiet of the evening, mother and daughter shared a meal together, talking softly about ordinary things, yet feeling the weight of extraordinary events that had changed their lives forever. Outside, the city moved on as if nothing had happened. Inside, a new chapter had begun, full of promise, opportunity, and the quiet understanding that one small act of courage could indeed change the world. Weeks passed, and the girl settled into a new rhythm. The hotel that had once seemed like a vast, distant place of strangers now felt strangely familiar. She and her mother moved through it with a cautious confidence, knowing that the world had noticed her bravery. The girl continued to help her mother, but now there was a sense of purpose, a feeling that she could affect the world around her in ways she had never imagined. The man visited them often, but always respectfully. He did not intrude. He simply offered guidance, wisdom, and encouragement. Slowly, he introduced the girl to new ideas, books that sparked her imagination, lessons that taught her to think critically, and quiet conversations about courage, ethics, and responsibility. She listened eagerly, absorbing knowledge with a hunger she had never realized she possessed. One afternoon, he invited her to a private meeting. It was not about danger this time. It was about opportunity. He explained that he wanted her to continue her education in a way that matched her curiosity and intelligence. Not just school, but mentorship, learning about leadership, decision-making, and the skills she might need to make a difference in the world. He emphasized that courage alone was not enough. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding were equally important. The girl felt overwhelmed. She had never imagined such things for herself. Yet the idea excited her. She realized that her choices had opened a door that she could now walk through, and the thought of walking through it filled her with hope and determination. Her mother watched quietly, pride shining in her eyes. She knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but she also saw that her daughter had a resilience and wisdom that could carry her through anything. Together, they began planning small steps, arrangements for studies, safe living, and ways to grow confidence without losing the humility and kindness that made the girl special. The hotel staff, too, began to treat her differently. No longer just the maid's daughter, she was someone to be respected quietly. Her peers and colleagues began to notice her focus, her calm presence, and her willingness to act when it mattered. The world outside the hotel was vast and intimidating, but inside these walls, she found a community that recognized courage in ways that were quiet but real. The man occasionally took her on visits to areas of the city she had never seen. He showed her places where decisions were made that affected countless lives. He introduced her to people who cared about meaningful work, who acted with integrity, and who valued courage above appearances. She absorbed each lesson silently, asking questions, learning to see the world with clarity and thoughtfulness. Months went by, and the girl's life transformed. She had opportunities that once seemed impossible. Yet she remained grounded, humble, and aware of her beginnings. She knew the small acts mattered, the decisions made when no one was watching, the choices driven by instinct and care rather than fame or reward. Each day, she practiced small acts of kindness, careful decisions, and courage in her own way. Her relationship with the man grew into one of mutual respect. He admired her insight and careful judgment, while she valued his guidance and the example he set. He never treated her as a child in need of rescue. Instead, he treated her as someone capable of understanding complexity, of making a difference, and of stepping into a future she could shape herself. One evening, they sat together in the quiet lounge of the hotel, watching the city lights twinkle below. She spoke softly, her voice thoughtful. "I never imagined that one small decision could change so much," she said. He nodded. The smallest actions often carry the greatest weight. Courage is not loud. It does not need recognition. But it matters, in ways that ripple beyond our sight. She reflected on that, thinking of the day she had slipped the note into his hand. The fear, the uncertainty, the instinct that had guided her. It had seemed so small, so insignificant at the time, yet it had changed everything. Her mother joined them quietly, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "You have changed more than just your own life," she said. "You've shown me, and everyone around you, what it means to be brave." The girl smiled softly. "I just did what I thought was right. And that was enough," the man added. It was more than enough. From that moment on, the girl carried herself with quiet confidence. She understood that life would bring challenges, fears, and difficult choices. But she also knew that the courage she had shown once would continue to guide her. She had learned that being brave did not mean acting without fear. It meant acting thoughtfully, with care, and with responsibility, even when the outcome was uncertain. Years later, she would look back on that day, the note, and the fear she had felt. She would remember the rush of adrenaline, the tiny details, the calm eyes of a man she had never truly known before that moment. And she would understand that her life had changed not because of luck, not because of chance, but because she had trusted herself enough to act when it mattered most. The man, too, would remember her. He would remember the courage of a young girl who saw danger, understood it, and acted despite fear. Her bravery had reminded him that even in a world of power, influence, and wealth, human courage, honesty, and integrity remained the most valuable qualities. He had learned, once again, that heroes often came from the most unexpected places. And the girl, now growing into a young woman, carried forward those lessons into every decision she made, every opportunity she embraced, and every challenge she faced. Her life had been touched by a moment of courage, and in turn, she became someone who could inspire courage in others. The ripple of her small act continued to grow, quietly, powerfully, and profoundly. In the end, the city continued to hum with life, unaware of the danger that had once been so close. Yet inside the hearts of those who had witnessed and survived it, a quiet truth remained. That bravery, kindness, and the courage to act could change the world, one small choice at a time.